She smiles, laughs, touches your arm 0.02, and then says, I'm just friendly. But 0.05, something in your gut tells you that 0.06 explanation doesn't cover what's really 0.08 happening. Listen carefully, because what 0.11 I'm about to say isn't meant to make you 0.13 paranoid. It's meant to make you 0.15 precise. There's a subtle difference, 0.17, between friendliness and interest, and 0.19 most men are never taught how to see it. 0.21, they're taught to either overreact, or 0.023, completely ignore it. And both mistakes, 0.026, cost you respect, attraction, and 0.028, clarity. When a woman is truly just 0.031 friendly, her energy is evenly 0.033 distributed. She treats you the same way, 0.035 she treats the waiter, her coworker, her 0.37 cousin, and the guy she barely 0.39 tolerates. There's warmth, but it's 0.41 broad. Nothing narrows, nothing focuses, 0.45. But when you notice that her 0.46 friendliness sharpens around you, when 0.48 it becomes selective, that's when 0.50 something else is at play. Pay attention, 0.52 to consistency. A woman who is just 0.54 friendly is friendly on her schedule, 0.57 not yours. She doesn't orbit your 0.59 presence. She doesn't subtly adjust her 1:1 behavior when you enter the room. But 1:03, when a woman's tone softens only with 1:05, you. When her posture opens only around 1:08, you. When her attention lingers longer, 1:10 than necessary, that's not an accident. 1:12, that's instinct. Here's the truth. Most 1:15 men never hear. Women don't test with 1:17 words first. They test with energy. 1:20, before she ever decides whether you're a 1:22 potential partner, she's already 1:24 watching how you respond to emotional 1:26 proximity. Do you rush toward it? Do you 1:28 freeze? Do you try to lock it down with 1:31 labels and questions? Or do you stay 1:33 grounded, calm, and unaffected? When 1:35, she's just friendly, but keeps circling 1:38. Back to you. What she's really asking is 1:40 not, do you like me? It's, do you 1:42 understand what's happening here without 1:43, me spelling it out? And this is where 1:46 men either rise or disqualify 1:47 themselves. A man who panics tries to 1:50 convert friendliness into certainty. He 1:53 asks for clarity too soon. He pushes for 1:55 definitions. He tries to turn energy 1:58 into contracts. And in doing so, he 2:01 reveals insecurity, not because he wants 2:03 her, but because he needs her reaction 2:05 to feel safe. A man who is unaware 2:08 misses the signal entirely. He treats 2:10 subtle interest like background noise. 2:13 he overexplains, he overshares. He 2:16 becomes emotionally convenient, and 2:18 slowly, without realizing it, he trains 2:20 her nervous system to experience him as 2:22 safe but non-threatening, comfortable, 2:25 but not compelling. The man who 2:27 understands female psychology does 2:29 neither. He doesn't chase the 2:30 friendliness, he observes it. He doesn't 2:33 inflate it in his mind, and he doesn't 2:35 dismiss it out of fear of being wrong. 2:37 he stays exactly where he is, centered, 2:40 self-directed, and emotionally steady. 2:43, and that steadiness does something. 2:45 powerful. It creates contrast. Women are 2:48 not drawn to men who react. They are 2:50 drawn to men who register, who notice 2:52 without grasping, who understand that 2:54 attraction often begins as ambiguity, 2:57 not certainty. If her friendliness 2:59 increases when you pull back slightly, 3:01 not cold, not distant, just less 3:03 available, that's information. If she 3:06 becomes more expressive when you stop 3:08 over-investing, that's information. And 3:10, if she subtly seeks your validation 3:12 after you stop offering it freely, 3:14, that's information too. This isn't 3:16 about games, it's about self-respect. 3:19, when you don't collapse into her 3:20 friendliness, you give her space to feel 3:23 her own curiosity. And curiosity is the 3:25 doorway to attraction. Most men ruin 3:28 that doorway by trying to force it open. 3:30. Remember this. A woman who is truly just 333 friendly doesn't notice when you stop 335 leaning in. A woman who isn't will. 337, here's where it gets uncomfortable, but 339 necessary. A woman who says she's just 342 friendly while behaving differently. 344 around you is often navigating in 346 internal contradiction. And know that 349 doesn't mean she's manipulative. 351 means she's human. Attraction doesn't 353 begin as a decision. It begins as a 355 sensation. A shift in her nervous 357 system. A slight increase in awareness 4 GR Gauss when you speak. A subtle pause before 402 she responds. Before logic ever gets 404 involved, her body already knows 406 something is different. And when that 408 sensation conflicts with her current 410 identity, relationship status, or 413 emotional safety, she labels it as 415 friendliness to keep herself grounded. 417, women don't lie to men first, they lie 420 to themselves first. So when she insists 422 it's nothing, what she's really saying 424 is, I haven't decided what this is 426 allowed to become. And the way you 428 behave in that undecided space 430 determines everything. Most men think 433 attraction grows when they add pressure, 435 when they increase attention, 437 availability, reassurance, but pressure 440 doesn't create desire, it creates 442 resistance, especially when she's 444 already feeling something she doesn't 446 fully understand yet. Notice this. When 448 a woman is purely friendly, she doesn't 451 monitor your reactions, she doesn't scan 453 your face after she says something, 455 playful, she doesn't adjust her behavior, 457, based on whether you noticed her effort, 459. But when there's something more beneath 501, the surface, she becomes subtly aware of 503, how you perceive her. She watches 505 without staring. She checks without 507 asking. That's not friendliness. That's 510 calibration. And here's the mistake that 512 costs men the most. Trying to prove 514 they're different. Men start performing, 517 being extra kind, extra supportive, 519 extra present. They think consistency 522 will be rewarded. But consistency 524 without polarity becomes predictability. 527 and predictability doesn't create 528 emotional tension, it dissolves it. 531 female attraction needs contrast, not 534 chaos, not gains. Contrast. When you 537 treat her friendliness as expected, not 540 special, something interesting happens. 542, you remove the reward she hasn't 544 consciously earned yet, and that creates 546 a small emotional imbalance. Suddenly, 549, she feels more than you do. Suddenly, 552, she's the one leaning in slightly. This 554 is where men get scared and overcorrect. 556, they sense the shift and rush to 558, stabilize it. They reassure her. They 601 soften. They go back to being overly 603 available, and the imbalance disappears. 606, along with the attraction, a grounded 608 man doesn't rush to fix emotional 610 imbalance. He allows it because he 612 understands that attraction often lives 614 in that space of uncertainty. Let me be 617 clear. This is not about ignoring her or 620 acting cold. Coldness signals emotional 623 unavailability. Groundedness signals 626 self-sufficiency. There's a difference 628 and women feel it immediately. A 630 grounded man still speaks warmly, still 633 listens, still engages. But his life 636 doesn't pause for her attention. His 638 mood doesn't rise and fall based on her 640 tone. His sense of self doesn't hinge on 643, her interest becoming something more, 645, and that independence is what transforms 647 just friendly into curiosity, and 650 curiosity into desire, because now 652, instead of you trying to earn her 654 interest, she's trying to understand 656 yours. She starts wondering why you 658 didn't jump, why you didn't chase, why 701 you didn't need clarity right away. And 703, that wondering activates imagination. 705, and imagination is where attraction. 707 quietly grows. This is the truth. No one 710 teaches men. Women don't fall for men 713 who want the most. They fall for men 715 who want their lives most and invite 717 women into it instead of orbiting 719 theirs. When you stop asking, what does 722 her friendliness mean? And start 723 asking, how do I want to show up? 725, regardless, everything shifts because 728 confidence isn't loud, it's calm, and 731 calm is magnetic. Now, pay attention, 734. Because this is where the pattern 735 becomes unmistakable. When her 737 friendliness turns inconsistent, it's no 740 longer accidental. It's diagnostic. One 742 day, she's warm, open, engaged. The next 746 day, she's distant, distracted, almost 748 neutral. Most men read this as confusion, 751, or mixed signals, but female psychology 754 doesn't operate randomly. Inconsistency 757 usually appears when attraction is 759 present, but unclaimed. When a woman 801 feels nothing, she's stable. When she 803 feels everything, she's expressive. But 806, when she feels something she hasn't, 808 decided to allow herself, she 809 oscillates. That push and pull isn't 812 about controlling you, it's about 814 regulating herself. Here's what's 816 happening beneath the surface. Part of 818, her enjoys how she feels around you. 820, another part is assessing risk. 822, emotional risk, social risk, identity. 826, risk. And every time those parts clash, 828, her behavior shifts. Men who don't 831 understand this start chasing clarity. 833, they ask, did I do something wrong? 836, they overexed, they overexplain. They try 839 to smooth the inconsistency, and in doing 841, so they unknowingly position themselves, 844, as emotionally dependent on her 846 stability. That's the fastest way to 848 neutralize attraction. A woman doesn't 850 want to be responsible for a man's 852 emotional balance. The moment she feels 854 like she is, desire collapses into duty. 857, the man who understands this, does 859 something counterintuitive. He remains 902 unchanged. When she pulls back, he 904 doesn't lean forward. When she warms up 906 again, he doesn't celebrate it. He stays 909 internally consistent, not to 911 manipulate, but because he actually is. 914, and that consistency becomes a mirror. 916, suddenly, she notices that her 918, that her fluctuations don't control him. Her 920 warmth doesn't inflate him. Her distance 922 doesn't shrink him. And that creates 924 something rare. Emotional safety paired 927 with strength. This is where many men 929 misunderstand female psychology. They 932 think women want reassurance. What women 934 want is regulation. They want to feel 936 that if emotions rise, the man remains 939 steady. That if tension appears, the man 941 doesn't panic. When she's just friendly, 944 but starts testing your boundaries. 945 interrupting your time, probing your 947 availability, lightly challenging your 950 decisions. That's not friendliness. 952, that's assessment. She's asking, does 954 this man bend under emotional pressure? 956, or does he hold shape? A man who bends 959 tries to keep the peace. He apologizes 1001 too quickly. He adjusts his values to 1004, maintain access. He prioritizes her 1006 comfort over his alignment. And while 1008, that may feel kind, it registers as 1011 weakness. A man who holds shape doesn't 1013 argue. He doesn't dominate. He simply 1016 doesn't abandon himself. If something 1018 doesn't work for him, he says so calmly. 1021, if a line is crossed, he addresses it 1023 without drama. And something fascinating, 1026 happens when he does. Her friendliness 1028 deepens, not because she feels 1030 entertained, but because she feels 1032 oriented. Women are drawn to men who 1034 create emotional gravity. Men who don't 1037 need to convince, chase, or perform. Men 1039 whose presence feels anchored. This is 1042. Why so many women say they're attracted 1044 to men who are hard to read. What they 1046 really mean is emotionally stable. 1048 predictable in character, not behavior. 1051, secure enough to allow uncertainty. 1053, without trying to dominate it. When you 1055, stop trying to decode her friendliness. 1057, and start focusing on your own internal 1059 posture. The dynamic flips. She becomes 1102 more expressive, more curious, more 1105 invested, because now instead of you, 1107 wondering where you stand with her, 1109 she's wondering where she stands with 1110 you. And that question is far more 1112 powerful than any confession. Remember 1115, this interest reveals itself, not 1117 through words, but through disturbance. 1119, if your presence subtly disrupts her 1121 emotional baseline, you're no longer 1123, just friendly. And the man who 1125 understands that doesn't rush to define 1128 it. He allows it to reveal itself 1130 naturally, inevitably, and on his terms. 1133. Here's the moment most men miss, the 1136 quiet turning point where friendliness, 1138 either dissolves or transforms into 1140 attraction. It happens when she realizes 1143, she can't place you. Human psychology, 1146, especially female psychology, is built 1148. Around pattern recognition, women are 1150 constantly mapping men into categories. 1153 safe, exciting, useful, avoidable. 1156 temporary, serious. Most men rush to 1158, make themselves easy to categorize. 12 ers, because certainty feels comfortable, but 12.03, comfort is not the birthplace of desire. 12.05, when she's just friendly, yet starts 12.07, asking questions that aren't necessary. 12.10, remembering details she doesn't need. Or 12.12, bringing up emotional topics without a 12.14 clear reason. Her mind is searching for 12.16, a box that fits you and failing. That 12.19 failure creates tension, and tension, when 12.22 paired with emotional safety, becomes 12.24 attraction. Notice how this works. 12.26. You're present, but not predictable. Warm 12.29, but not eager. Interested, but not 12.31. Invested beyond reason. You don't 12.33 withdraw to provoke her, and you don't 12.35 advance to secure her. You simply 12.38. Continue being aligned with yourself. 1240, that alignment forces her to confront 1242, something unsettling. She can't control 1244, the pace or direction of the dynamic. 1247, this is where many women unconsciously 1249 escalate. She may increase compliments. 1251, not overtly but personally. She may 1254 create moments alone with you that feel 1256 unplanned. She may become more 1258 expressive about her frustrations, her 13:0 doubts, her inner world, not because she 13:02 wants you to fix them, but because she 13:04 wants to see how you hold space. And 13:07, here's the critical test. Does her 13:09 emotional openness pull you out of your 13:11 center? Men who mistake vulnerability 13:13 for obligation rush in. They 13:15 over support. They start playing 13:17 therapist, rescuer, emotional anchor. 13:20, and in doing so, they collapse the 13:22 polarity. She no longer feels tension. 13:25, she feels taken care of. And while that 13:27 feels nice, it doesn't feel erotic. A 13:30 grounded man listens without absorbing. 13:32, he empathizes without entangling. He 13:35 doesn't rush to solve emotions that 13:37 weren't given to him to fix. That 13:39 restraint communicates something 13:41 powerful. I can be close without losing 13:43 myself. And that is rare. When a woman 13:46 senses that closeness doesn't grant her 13:48 control over you, something shifts in 13:50 her perception. She becomes more aware, 13:52, of her behavior. She wonders how she's 13:54 being seen. She notices when you pull 13:57 back slightly, not in availability, but 13:59 in emotional investment. That awareness, 14:01, is the moment friendliness starts to 14:03 feel insufficient. Because now she's not 14:06, just enjoying your presence. She's 14:08, evaluating her position in your life. 14:10, this is where attraction becomes 14:12 conscious. She may still say she's just 14:14 friendly. Not to deceive you, but to 1416 protect herself from the vulnerability 1418 of wanting more. Wanting more means 1420 risking rejection, loss of status 1423 emotional exposure, and women are just 1425 as afraid of that as men. Sometimes 1427 more. The difference is women rarely 1430 move toward desire directly. They move 1432 indirectly through proximity, emotion, 1435 and time. Your job is not to force 1437 clarity. Your job is to remain clear 1440 within yourself. When you don't chase 1442 reassurance, when you don't punish 1444 distance, when you don't reward 1446 inconsistency with extra effort, you 1448 send a message that doesn't need words. 1450, I value connection, but I value myself 1453 more. That message recalibrates 1455 everything. Now, instead of her 1457 friendliness being the center of the 1458 interaction, your standards become the 15 center. And standards, quiet, lived, 1503 unannounced, are deeply attractive. This 1506 is the truth that unsettles men. 1508, attraction grows not when you prove your 1510 value, but when you stop negotiating it. 1513, when she senses that access to you is 1515 earned through alignment, not emotion. 1518, friendliness alone no longer satisfies 1520, her curiosity. She wants to know where 1522 she stands, and the moment she starts 1525 wondering that the dynamic has already 1527 changed because the most powerful shift 1529 in any relationship is not when someone 1532 wants you. It's when they realize they 1534 might lose you without you ever 1536 threatening to leave. Now we arrive at 1538, the truth most men feel, but rarely 1540 articulate. The moment her friendliness, 1543, stops being enough for her, the dynamic 1545 reaches a silent crossroads. And what 1547 happens next depends entirely on who, 1549, you've been up to this point. If you 1551 chased, overgiven, or waited anxiously 1554 for her to choose you. The energy, 1556, collapses here. Her curiosity fades, 1558 replaced by certainty, and certainty 1601 without desire becomes stagnation. But 1604 if you've remained grounded, if you've 1606 let her friendliness exist without 1607 feeding on it, something else emerges, 1610 awareness. She becomes aware of the 1612 emotional space you occupy, not as a 1615 convenience, not as a backup, but as a 1617 presence that affects her. She notices 1620 that your absence changes the tone of 1622 the room, that conversations feel 1624 flatter without you, that her thoughts 1626 circle back uninvited. This is when 1628 friendliness turns inward. She may 1631 replay moments, reread messages, wonder 1634 why you didn't push when she expected 1635 you too, why you didn't try to lock her 1638 down when the door was slightly open, 1640 why you seemed interested but not 1642 dependent. And here's the key. 1644 attraction intensifies when a woman 1646 feels she is choosing, not being chosen. 1649, by not forcing the moment, you give her 1651 ownership of her desire. This is also 1653, where many men sabotage themselves by 1656, finally making a move out of fear. They 1658 confess. They demand clarity. They rush 1701 to capitalize on momentum, and in doing 1703 so, they steal the very agency that was 1706, making her drawn to them. A man who 1708 understands timing doesn't accelerate 17.10 emotional gravity. He allows it to pull 1713 naturally. If something more is meant to 1715 happen, it will emerge through 1716 alignment, not pressure, through shared 1719 moments that feel inevitable, not 1721 engineered. And if it doesn't happen, 1723, then her friendliness was never the 1725 point. Here's the hardest truth to 1727 accept, but the most liberating one. Not 1730, every spark is meant to become a fire. 1732, some exist to test whether you'll 1734 abandon yourself chasing warmth or 1736 remain whole in its presence. The man 1738 who wins doesn't win the woman. He wins 1741 himself. When you stop needing 1743, friendliness to become attraction, you, 1745, stop bleeding energy. You become 1747 selective, you become calm, you become 1749, the kind of man whose presence feels 1751, complete with or without validation, and 1754, paradoxically, that's when women feel 1756 safest desiring you. Because desire 1759 grows where there is freedom. Freedom to 1801 choose, freedom to approach, freedom to 1804 pull back without punishment. If she's 1806 truly just friendly, your groundedness 1808 won't change her, and that's fine. 1811 you'll walk away intact, 1812 self-respecting, unconfused, but if 1815 there's something more, she'll feel it. 1817 intensify the moment she realizes she, 1820 can't control it. That's when 1821 friendliness becomes effort. Attention, 1824 becomes intentional, and words begin to 1826 align with behavior without you asking. 1829, so stop asking what her friendliness 1831 means. Ask yourself this instead. Are 1834 you acting from self-respect or from 1836 hope? Because women don't respond to 1838 hope. They respond to presence. And 1841 presence is built when a man knows who 1843 he is, what he wants, and what he 1845 refuses to beg for. Let me leave you 1847 with a question worth answering honestly. 1849 because your answer reveals everything. 1851 self-respect text emotional control do 1854 need for validation equal sign. Tell me 1857 your answer in the comments. If this 1859 video made you see things differently, 1901 like it, subscribe, and share it with a 1903 friend who needs to hear this before he 1905 mistakes friendliness for something it 1907 was never meant to.